Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first meeting of the United Lodge of Theosophists, the DC chapter here at Moore Green. It is our first meeting of 2022. How exciting for all of us. And today we'll be having a talk on the new year, of course. We're going to start off by reading the declaration before moving into our opening reading for this meeting. The policy of this lodge is independent devotion to the cause of theosophy, without professing attachment to any theosophical organization. It is loyal to the great founders of the theosophical movement, but does not concern itself with dissensions or differences of individual opinion. The work it has on hand and the end it keeps in view are too absorbing and too lofty to leave in the time or inclination to take part in side issues. That work and that end is the dissemination of the fundamental principles of the philosophy of theosophy and the exemplification in practice of those principles. Through a truer realization of self, a profounder conviction of universal brotherhood. It holds that the unassailable basis for union among theosophists, wherever and however situated, is similarity of aim, purpose, and teaching, and therefore has neither constitution, bylaws, nor officers, the sole bond between its associates being that basis. And it aims to disseminate this idea among theosophists in the furtherance of unity. It regards as theosophists all who are engaged in the true service of humanity without distinction of race, creed, sex, condition, or organization, and it welcomes to its association all those who are in accord with its declared purposes and who desire to fit themselves, by study and otherwise, to be better able to help and teach others. The true theosophist belongs to no cult or sect, yet belongs to each and all.
And today's reading is from the Light on the Path. Before the eyes can see, they must be incapable of tears. Before ear can hear, it must have lost its sensitiveness. Before the voice can speak in the presence of the masters, it must have lost the power to wound. Before the soul can stand in the presence of the masters, its feet must be washed in the blood of the heart. Kill out ambition. Kill out desire of life. Kill out desire of comfort. Work as those work who are ambitious. Respect life as those do who desire it. Be happy as those are who live for happiness. Seek in the heart the source of evil and expunge it. It lives fruitfully in the heart of the devoted disciples as well as in the heart of the man of desire. Only the strong can kill it out. The weak must wait for its growth, its fruition, its death, and it is as plant that lives and increases throughout the ages. It flowers when the man has accumulated unto himself innumerable existences. He who will enter upon the path of power must tear this thing out of his heart, and then the heart will bleed, and the whole life of the man seem to be utterly dissolved. This ordeal must be endured. It may come at the first step of the perilous ladder which leads to the path of life. It may not come until the last, but zero disciple, remember that it has to be endured, and fasten the energies of your soul upon the task. Live neither in the present nor the future, but in the eternal. This giant weed cannot flower there. This blot upon existence is wiped out by the very atmosphere of eternal thought. Kill out all sense of separateness. Kill out desire for sensation. Kill out the hunger for growth. Yet stand alone and isolated, because nothing that is embodied, nothing that is conscious of separation, nothing that is out of the eternal can aid you. Learn from sensation and observe it, because only so can you commence the science of self-knowledge and plant your foot on the first step of the ladder. Grow as the flower grows unconsciously, but eagerly anxious to open its soul to the air. So must you press forward to open your soul to the eternal. But it must be the eternal that draws forth your strength and beauty, not desire of growth. For in the one case you develop in the luxuriance of purity, in the other you harden by the forcible passion of personal stature. Desire only that which is within you. Desire only that which is beyond you. Desire only that which is unattainable. For within you is the light of the world, the only light that can be shed upon the path.
You kind of said all I needed to say. Happy New Year, which was yesterday according to the calendar, but we're going to hear today why it should be January 4th. This coming Tuesday, January 4th, marks the Theosophical New Year. H.P. Blavatsky stated that, to be brief, it is January the 4th which ought to be selected by the Theosophists, the esoterists especially, as their new year. January is under the sign of Capricornus, the mysterious Makara of the Hindu mystics, the Kumaras, it being stated having incarnated in mankind under the 10th sign of the zodiac. Let no one mistake the importance and potency of numbers as symbols. For ages, the 4th of January has been sacred to Mercury Buddha, who is credited with adding brains to the heads of those who are civil to him. Everything combines to make January 4th a festival to be held by those who study ancient wisdom. We heard about the winter solstice starting December 21 in our December Christmas talk. On Tuesday, January 4th, the earth will be closest to the visible sun as it arches northward. In contrast with January 4, January 1 is known as the day of Januarius or Janus, the double-faced god of time servers. One face of Janus is turned regretfully to the past, and the other stares hopefully in the future, into the wounds of futurity. With a wide open eye that bespeaks the ignorance of this god. The roots of the New Year festivals. Modern New Year festivals have their roots in the pagans, as do virtually all of our holidays. The return of the sun at the beginning of the year brings revivifying influences to all kingdoms of nature. These influences touch the inner life of all forms and give a renewed impetus to expansion and growth. Everything in nature has this rhythmic, harmonious movement. Number 3, on being in sync with the cycles. The skillful work meticulously with the law of cycles. The success of experiences we have and undertakings we engage in all depend for their fruition upon some phase of the universal law of periodicity. C-I-T-Y. And give enough room for that. For best results, the gardener must plant and harvest his crops according to and natural seasons of the year. Even efforts to improve the mind by study require cooperative movement of cycles, just as truly as the casting of seeds in the spring. Law of periodicity is what I was trying to write. Within the meaning of the word periodicity is that whatever the waters of life rush to one's feet is but the commensurate return of what the individual has sent out. To work constructively with the law, to align one's energies with the creative tides of nature, man must be able to calculate his position in relation to each cycle. Ignorance of the meaning of the times of the cycles leads to defeat. Natural science investigators have confirmed the theosophical doctrine of periodicity by accumulating vast amounts of evidence showing that events move in these cycles. But science as a whole has cut itself off from fields of experience beyond the physical, although forward-thinking scientists continue to push the boundaries of mainstream science to acknowledge the fountain underlying the physical world. Two such scientists cited in The Secret Doctrine, Drs. Givon and Babbage, believed that every thought displacing the articles of the brain and setting them in motion scatters them throughout the universe. They think that each particle of the existing matter must be a register of all that has happened. So the ancient doctrine transmitted to us by HPB has begun, if ever so slowly, to acquire rights of citizenship in the speculations of the scientific world. Theosophy, unlike modern science, has always begun with soul. The ancients and the birth of the year. The ancients knew that the winter solstice brings a new and fresh vigor to all channels of life, from within outwards, which gradually strengthens as the sun moves nearer. Being aware of this fact and realizing that life is one through all its manifestations, the ancients took advantage of the birth of the year to reaffirm their highest aspirations. HPB wrote, quote, "Let no one imagine that it is a mere fancy, the attaching of importance to the birth of the year. The earth passes through its phases, a man with it. And as the day can be colored, so can a year. The astral life of the earth is young and strong between Christmas and Easter. Those who form their wishes now will have added strength to fulfill them consistently." Making resolutions and gratitude to the masters. Those who make resolutions and send New Year's greetings can look back upon their successes and failures of the past year and resolve to make more strenuous efforts toward the goal of self-knowledge and unselfish effort. Students of this lodge have this goal in the forefront of their study. They apply to apply and repromulgate genuine theosophy. We continue to draw attention to the fact that there is a complete body of knowledge brought to the world by HPB and named by her theosophy. As a matter of justice to the messenger, to the message, and gratitude to the messenger, we have put forward only that which she gave and so named. And it should be, that's all that should be entitled to the word theosophy. To conserve the message of theosophy in its purity is our earnest endeavor. There are many reasons for this, a key one being that HPB's attest is the only visible means by which the genuine may be distinguished from the counterfeit. ULT students have repeatedly called attention to the fact that without recognition of the existence of the masters of wisdom, there is no reason for the existence of a body of knowledge such as that transmitted by HPB. This said, we do not deify or follow a person. We simply recognize the fact and govern ourselves accordingly. Number 7. Cycles and spiritual power. Knowing the cycle is coming and be prepared, students of true occultism may benefit deeply by the influx of spiritual energy. Whatever one's life motive may be, whether good or evil, the tides of great and personal cycles multiply it 100-fold. Nothing can be done against cycles, said Mr. Judge, but a whole lot can be done in them. Man must learn to so poise himself that he possesses the power to live on the crest of each wave of life. Mr. Judge uses an allegorical umbrella held between mankind and the spiritual sun, which is behind the visible sun, to make visible the idea that adepts and elder brothers of the human race modify and transmit those spiritual forces that are beyond our present powers of assimilation. The handle of an umbrella is placed in every man's hand, thus underscoring the faith placed in us by our teachers. The final authority is the man himself. This is a good time of the year to look back to our teachers in gratitude and to look forward to our opportunity to carry on with the great work of those masters who are with us always and who come before us from time to time. It is a time to be uplifted by their message and to gain confidence that we all have it within ourselves to be increasingly like them, and we help others as we help others and learn to better benefit mankind. Especially during this season, it is for each one to sense the spiritual powers. To feel the beneficence of the teacher's presence, and to look with them into the principles of things. It may be that once the allegorical umbrella idea is grasped, all our changing days by the light of the spiritual sun will be allegorical New Years, each with its birth vision of the possibilities of the cycle. Number 8, make positive resolutions. This is indeed a good time to make resolutions because all that we desire to do has a greater impulsion than at some other time of the year. The turning of the annual cycle is an event, like every other event in time, which has deep occult significance. Problem is that we have difficulty endeavoring to carry out our resolutions of any kind. Our first mistake is to make negative resolutions. We say, I will not lie, or I will not do this, or I will not do that. The proper resolve to make is that I will do the opposite of what I'm now doing. A positive resolution makes a direct affirmation of will. Behind will stands desire. On the physical plane, we have those desires to work with. Perhaps we have thought that because we don't do a number of questionable things, we are good. But really, we're merely not bad, a negative position. True goodness is a positive position. Number 9, concentration and spiritual perception. To effect our resolutions, we must call on the will of man that is not restrained by any form or obstacle. Not just the kind of will known as a strong desire to gain one's ends, but also a mental phase of the will which can be cultivated by practice, the fixed attention or concentration on certain directions capable of affecting desired results. Need concentrations here. The real and true will is known as a spiritual will. Spiritual will. Which flies like light and cuts all obstacles like a sharp sword. It is that will proceeding from our highest spiritual natures which causes man to be an evolution from within outwards. All powers that exist or can exist are latent, however ill expressed in the spiritual nature. We draw from that in degree, but in small degree, because most of us are so fixed on physical existence that only token attention at best is paid to spiritual perception. We were once conscious of our spiritual nature, but as we came down through the planes of matter to this plane, we made our growth in intellectuality at the expense of spiritual perception. Without intellect, we always reason from a premise to a conclusion, whereas the spiritual nature has the power to direct cognition of nature of anything. If we are going to realize our own natures, we must begin at the highest point of our nature, by assuming that it is, and by holding to the power of that assumption. We begin to see light by the very information of the spiritual nature. Use of law occurrence. We're always using our will along the lines of our likes and dislikes. What is most necessary for us is a proper basis for thinking. We need to eject the false idea of our being weak, sinful creatures because we were born that way. We need to eject the mental idol of an outside creator. We need to understand the purpose of life, to see that we are the product of many of our prior lives, and to recognize our evolution under law, a law both true and merciful, which operates everywhere. It is because of that law that operates in a round of an impression that we have the tendency each year to make New Year's resolutions. We could, by an understanding of using of this law of recurrence, bring into effect those resolutions. We have our own pet theories of religion or religious philosophies because they conform to our desires, not because they conform to truth or that they are an explanation of all the mysteries we see about us. That is why, after so many thousands of years of what we call civilization, we have become none the wiser, still moving in the same old treadmill of life and death and sorrow and suffering and pain. Yet we are not bound to it, save as we bind ourselves by our own thoughts and actions. We are not under the necessity of following along on those planes of error, as we are doing it now. 11. Resolve to do right thing, to do right, resolve to do right based on right thinking and knowledge. There remains a chance for us if we understand our own natures. So let's resolve to know, resolve to think, and do right. Okay. And of course, we have to learn to have knowledge. That's what the basis of all that. Resolve to acquire some of the ancient knowledge that always has existed. The knowledge of man as a spiritual being through all its fluctuations in the realm of matter. As we resolve more and more on the self within, we begin to express and use the power which we already have. And that is far more than we imagine. We have to help ourselves by taking the suggestions already given in the teachings of the ancient wisdom we know as theosophy. And then, as the sustaining power of the will is held along the lines in which we desire to do, more direct help comes from those elder brothers who are at every hour of each day, quote, are willing and anxious to meet those clear-eyed enough to see their true destiny and noble-hearted, if they're noble-hearted enough to work for the great orphan humanity. Future concealed in the past. The occult future of 2022 and beyond is concealed in the exoteric past of 2021 and its preceding years. Man, in his dark cycle, is denied as a collective whole the faculty of foresight. During this dark age of materialism, we act as either ants laying by provisions of old age, or as grasshoppers and a perpetual buzz in summer song. The selfish care of the one and the utter recklessness of the other make both disregard the often remain entirely ignorant of any serious duty towards humankind. Most love, but too many care nothing for the future of the races of the world. Nor will they give a thought, if they could help it, to post-mortem life. When they think about death, it is generally about the glories of heaven and the asbestos of hell. Happy of those warriors by whom death is regarded as a tender and merciful mother. She rocks her sick children into sweet sleep on her soft bosom, but to awake them a moment after, healed, happy, and with a tenfold reward for every bitter sigh or tear. In the degree to which the state depends for its political, commercial, and social well-being and prosperity, not upon a moral but a mechanical basis, to that degree is its foundation perilous. Importance of ideas, what is number 13? Great nations have lost their ideals. Their citizens have come to degrading compromise. Their aspirations turn to brazen lust for power. We must learn once and for all that the ideas and ideals of an age select its leaders, be it Caesar or Christ. That the cloister teacher, the clever author, the impassioned pamphleteer, are the real rulers who provide the ideas that rule the lives of all the rest. It is assuredly a crime to murder a human being, but what about those who have murdered the idea of immortality, of duty and self-discipline? Who is more to blame? The trained partisan who blends irresponsibly with passion, whose plausible arguments omit facts, or the fanatical psychic who accepts the arguments, weaving them into dogmas of hate and destruction, or the sheep who follow, some eager, some reluctant. Theosophy is concerned with the era of ways, of ideas, not of men. So long as we incarnate by constraint and not through will, so will we participate in the false ideas which, in its more ugly effects, so horrifies us today. It is the heresy of separateness. The individual must learn to identify himself with collective humanity only through the martyrdom of self-conscious existence. The suffering pilgrim must see in himself not only the virtues and glory, but the woes, sins, and failings of all mankind. The cycles of nature keep on their courses, and in the fullness of time the year is born, without man yea or nay. But saviors of the world are born by will. The cycle of the Buddha is begun by himself, bringing to birth a new age for all the world. Today, to dare, to will, to achieve, and keep silent is the motto of the true occultist. So in conclusion, our theosophical tenets hold that every person is endowed, more or less, with a magnetic personality which, when held by a sincere and especially by an intense, indomitable will, is the most effective magnetic lever by nature in human hands. May we use our will to send our sincere greetings and best wishes for the new year. As the new year to every creature living under the sun, especially those who may be our enemies. So, Happy New Year, everyone, and I'll open the floor to discussion. Anything you want to?
Can you open the mic over there?
Is it,
We're gonna open the mic.
is the microphone up? Can you hear us out there
Yes.
in Google Meet land?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good.
Open the questions for
Good.
them.
Well, I must have answered all your questions. Well, this is what, obviously, as we know, we've all been gone out there in the world, and it's very difficult to do these simple sounding things, stay with the principles of things, and pay attention to the Christ within, rather than the personalities and the individuals that appear to be in bodies that are visible to us. And to even know, it's important, it's also impossible to distinguish for most of us the difference between a master who is there to help us and our enemy. So,
I found very interesting the notion of direct cognition, of moving away from definitions and words and descriptions to a direct cognition of sort of being and understanding the concepts. And that's, I think, where the power of meditation and reflection comes in.
yeah, there are tools available to us, and you named two of them right there, meditation and reflecting, thinking about what happened during the year that we learned from, and not to worry about what we did, but to learn how to do better next time, because there's always a better way of getting things done. Meditation is a very important tool where we start. There's a process in Raja Yoga, I think it's called, where we start with a process of maybe an object and focus on that, maybe a symbol or something like that, and then we evolve to the point where we can meditate at all times. We can meditate in a busy street or wherever we happen to be, through that self-discipline approach that Raja Yoga presents to us. We have a book out here on Raja Yoga and the difference between Raja Yoga and Hatha Yoga, which other than maybe exercises which we associate with yoga, Hatha Yoga is a little dangerous unless you have a very good teacher, and I don't know of any in the world right now. But so the idea is to try to train the mind to make it a useful tool to become unselfish and to think about the good of all in all of our thoughts and actions. Yes?
The point you made in number 12, the future concealed in the past, it's what we talk in theosophy about consequences or karma reincarnation, like your actions will have a consequence. So in the personal level, it's difficult to know what my actions today will end up. We can have a general idea of what consequence I'm going to have. At the community level or national level, it's, I think, we can see more the trends where we're going, what we're doing today is the present, or if you want to say the past, will determine our future. So we have to take actions that will benefit a larger community, not just on the individual level, because what I do today may benefit me, but maybe I can think, oh, what can I do today that will benefit my family, my community, my nation, each time the larger community, thinking in broader terms, because that's going to be the future. Every action has consequences. That's
right.
where your point 12 is saying, future concealed in the past.
That's right.
Nothing is disconnected.
No.
There's always a connection.
Yep.
Mhm.
And guess who makes that connection? We do.
Mhm.
And I mean, there are actions we take for our family, which is good,
Yeah.
as long as it doesn't hurt other people.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult to do, to take an action to the benefit of all.
Yeah.
Or at least if it benefits a few, if it doesn't hurt others.
Yeah, which leads to the point before, number 11 says, resolve to do right based on right thinking and knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, and even for me, it might be difficult to know what's right, because it may be right for me, but not for my neighbor. But when I start thinking outside of me and see what my action is going to lead to, I may be looking at the right action, right thinking. I have to broaden to
Yes.
see what my action is going to lead to, because my right thinking would be right for me, but not for others.
That's right. And all those words are very important, including the knowledge part.
Yeah.
It's what we're trying to gain by studying and comparing our understanding of the philosophy with others, and so forth, and also by practicing and making mistakes sometimes. I made a comment to someone about making mistakes, but he said, if you have the right knowledge, you're not going to make the mistakes. So there we go. But sometimes we're all human. We make mistakes, and that's okay too, as long as we learn from those mistakes and do it better next time. That's what we're here for, to uplift everything around us by internal processes, by improving ourselves. By improving ourselves, we uplift everything around us.
Can you repeat?
Man, know thyself, it says.
Yeah. Can you repeat again or elaborate on where the impulse for the resolutions come from? Because you talk
To
about
make positive resolutions?
Mhm.
Yeah. The impulse should come from within. Virtually everything should come from within.
Okay.
And for example, if you want to stop smoking, you stop drinking, whatever the case may be, start thinking about not drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Start thinking about what it would be like to not do that thing, or what life is like absent that, without thinking about that at all. You're not going to stop drinking if you're constantly thinking about it all the time. So that's, in a nutshell.
And I hear from your talk that you say that impulse or those resolutions, this is what I understood, that it's not just at the New Year, which is on Tuesday, January 4th, but it's a period from the New Year until the spring, Easter, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
It's a period, it's not just one day.
Mhm.
And it's where you can gather all that impulse for your resolutions and your goodwill.
You can make a resolution in November,
Yeah,
But-
okay.
but,
Here you
the-
receive the impulse.
but you have the major impulse right now,
Yeah.
because it will get a chance to grow, just like that's the seed in the ground. Is getting a chance to grow if you plant it after the, whatever the right time is to plant that seed, usually early in the year, to develop until fruition around Easter. So mentally, physically, we'll all have those seasons. The best time to do things right. Does anybody on Google Meet have any questions? Okay.
Yes, I was wondering if you could talk more about the how the future is concealed in the past. I would just like to hear a little bit more about that.
Okay. Well, theosophy, we learn about karma. I think that's in a word maybe describes how the future is concealed in the past. And if fellows have other comments they want to make about that, please feel free to do so. But whatever, karma is often thought of as something bad, but it's just a reaction. It can be a good reaction too. And if we operate correctly today, then the future will be brighter. If we treat our fellow man correctly, if we try to understand what life is all about, and like when the Buddha, here's a good example. He went and studied, and he studied. He went into the forest or something like that. And then he came out enlightened. And then he started helping his fellow man. Not that he wasn't helping his fellow man when he was in there, in isolation learning, because even thinking helps bring things up. But that's the whole idea. His action in the past, which was to think about man's condition, where they needed to be led spiritually. Then he came out and applied his thinking. So that's how past action can influence future action. So every thought is important, because thought brings action in that direction.
Thank you. And I think you also mentioned too about thoughts connecting with matter. Can you discuss that a little more?
Well, I've heard castles in the sky is a good example. Well, that's not in the literature that I've seen. In effect, I haven't seen castles in the sky. But thinking from a physical standpoint, the scientist, the engineer can think about, and there's a whole host of beings which we don't see, which make, just like engineer, a body, and they create a mind, or they help us create our mind, and so forth. So that is bringing things down from an idea to materiality. And there are probably plenty of other examples too. But that's what comes to mind right now. Our thoughts do produce actions, and actions is on the material level. It gives us an idea to help our neighbor, or to, not all ideas are good. If you decide you don't want to be mad at your neighbor, you stop that idea right there. We have power to do that.
Thank you.
Well, Cyrus, anybody out there? We have a couple more minutes. We usually last till 12 o'clock. Today we're 8 minutes shy. So it's simple. The ideas are laid out here. Nothing that any of us can't do if we just keep this in mind throughout our lives. That's what we have. That's what's difficult to do. Well, we'll stay around for a few more minutes. If somebody has a thought, please share it with us while we're here. Or if you have a thought later on, shoot us an email or give us a call. Or whatever we want to do. We are fortunate to be on the Google Meet because we can be anywhere in the world. We have folks from the northern part of the country and farther. Usually we have a guy from North Carolina, but he is not here with us today. He's going to the airport to meet a friend. But so that's the advantage of a Google Meet. At least we can reach out from our central location, which used to be in Bethesda, but because of this, we thought, well, is it a good opportunity to go somewhere else? So we came out here to Manassas.
Yeah.
How about that?
Interesting.
Yeah. Higher mind.
Yeah. So
Insight.
what that connection is, I don't know right yet.
Ah,
Where it came from.
We've got people thinking about that.
nice.
It may be somewhere in the literature, I don't know.
It's karma.
Karma.
Yeah.
Karma. That's what we're here for. That's why we're here, rather than somewhere else. And
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that, this philosophy needs to be everywhere. So, we're not limited to this space. When we go out in the world, we carry it with us. When we die, it affects our bodies, so that we, even in death, are affecting the world around us.
And we have to also remind ourselves that we are leaving scandals behind us, the negative prints
Right.
for the next reincarnation. We're leaving
Right.
something.
Yeah, we have the
Yeah.
skanda, we have the
Yeah.
elementals, there's a whole
Yes.
host of things in the
Yeah.
literature between the highly spiritual, which is the spark coming from the all, the deity, which is what simple name for it is. A simple name is it includes a multitude of things. That spark coming from the deity, and then the going back into that deity was starting this whole process called a mantra, and one mantra after the other. Mantras 311 trillion 40 billion years or something like that. It's you can't wrap your head around it, but that's the process, and that's just a day. And then we have a night of drama, right? And then we have that goes on, and we have planets coming in and going, and the cycles that referred to in the literature, and there's all kinds of detail supporting these concepts, and it's just amazing that we think we're so intelligent sometimes and we're so ignorant. I mean, how many people how just the idea of the going through. I even forget the name of it right now. I said it a while ago. It's like the zodiac. Now, how many people know the zodiac these days? I don't know many. And when we think about the zodiac, we immediately try to get it to the material world without thinking about what's in the literature. Is what the signs mean, the ancient Chinese. So the ancient teachings are there for us to learn from, and we have lots we can learn from them still. We've forgotten all of these signs of what, the January 4th. I mean, if the people that established the New Year, if they knew of that, all this stuff, I would imagine they would make it January 4th unless some groups wanted to try to make this a novel idea and try to erase the ancient teachings. But the ancient teachings is where the wisdom is. With that, I'll just say that next week we're going to be back on the YouTube, on the Google Meet, studying aspects of the secret doctrine, and looking forward to continuing our study of that. We will pick up where we left off last time. I don't have it in front of me, but it's we just continue on. You can pick it up anytime. You don't have to wait until we start a chapter, even start at the beginning. We usually also study the ocean of theosophy. We study a number of other books, Bhagavad Gita. We go through that one section at a time, and that's what we do on Sundays most of the time, except the first of the month we physically gather here in Manassas and broadcast our talk from here. And eventually it's going to get on YouTube. No promises of when it's going to get on there. We're learning as we're going, and maybe we can impose on our expert here to help us figure out how to do it better. But right now it takes forever to get it out on YouTube. And it's supposed to be an instant process. I guess we could go directly from the camera if we didn't want to edit this time. But we haven't been able to do that yet because we needed to edit some things out. Some things that are, maybe we as a group know that maybe people wouldn't know on YouTube. It would be it would be confusing rather than helpful. So we try to take those things out. And again, thank you for joining us, and we're looking forward to being with you on Google Meet next Sunday at 11 o'clock. Thank you.